Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, Kanopadon?
Thank you.
Hi. Good. Good. Is the amount of COVID in Thailand still growing?
Yes,
It is, getting worse. That's hard. สวัสดีค่ะท่านอาจารย์ค่ะ
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
สวัสดีครับ สวัสดีครับ
สวัสดีค่ะ
Got more and more people here.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์
Hello. Does anyone have something to start with today? Azita, you often do.
I'm a bit hesitant to get too involved because I have a tradesperson coming and I might just have to dash out. However, I would like to start with Sawadika Tanachan. I hope you are well and everybody. To start with it, what was it? Achan, you on Saturday, I think it was, I copied down something that you said, to be truthful to the reality which arises. Would you like to say something to that, please?
Please I couldn't hear well. Please say it again.
To be truthful to the reality which arises.
Yes, because now it's there appearing, and what is its truth? The truth of whatever is there is covered up. So hearing the truth about it can be conditioned for thinking about it, consider it, reflect on it until the characteristic, which is its own characteristic, which doesn't belong to anything or anyone at all, is there. For example, what is seen now, no one has thought about it before, but what is seen, the truth of it is seen, that's all. That's all. When one closes one's eyes, nothing is there as it is seen. But when one opens one's eye, so many things are there. How come? Is it wonderful to have such imagination of what is there as different things, but actually it's only that which can impinge on the eye base. And when seeing arises, it sees, that's all. Only in a moment of seeing and then gone. Everything. But the succession of the arising and falling away so rapidly, no one can imagine how it's so very rapid. Just from one moment to another moment, it can form up the idea of something there with shape and form, different shapes and forms, conditioned to be door, window, shoes, and everything. And the truth of each one is that is seen can be only that which can impinge on the eye base. It doesn't know. It just arises. And then it's not the rupa which intend to impinge on the eye base, but the passa, the reality, which can experience, touch it, or contact. So it's there at the moment when it is there. And then see arises and then gone. Just see and then gone. Is this not true? So the truth of everything is just like this. So it's the breaking world, each moment, any moment. No one knows. That's why what is meant by enlightenment is the experiencing with so very high understanding unexpectedly by conditions to just experience such with understanding, with different degrees, according to different people, different ones. It is now at this moment. And in order to understand the truth of life, we take everything, each moment, what is there as something, life. But now, what is life? It's just a moment of experiencing an object, even right now. Moment of seeing, experiencing what? A moment of hearing, experiences what? A moment of thinking, experiences what? The reality which arises to
What happened?
John, we're not hearing
I
you.
or anyone at all.
That's better.
And this is the truth that one should consider whether it's true or not. It has to be one's own understanding whether it's true or not. When it's true, can it be directly experienced? Because now it is experienced, but no understanding. This is the difference between having heard about the truth of it and studied and understand the truth little by little. The absolute truth is that if it does not arise, it cannot impinge on the eye base, and if seeing does not arise at all, there cannot be seeing and different ideas of that which is seen all the time, from life to life, just keep on like this. But no one, only conditions from moment to moment for whatever is that, because it has risen by such and such conditions. Is this not true? Just develop the understanding of truth, and understanding develops each moment when it understands what is heard, because there must be sanya, marking, remember each word, study carefully, and then understanding. And sanya is there. Remember that which is considered, and remember that what's the truth. What is the truth? Not forget that the truth is that no one can just last forever in this living like this, but it's just the moment of condition, the moment of birth. After that, moment of seeing, hearing, and thinking, on, and everything is gone. Nothing is left, but the clinging and ignorance is there to condition moment and moment ahead endlessly. Is it not true? Because this is not just one moment. There must be moments before, and after this, there are moments. This is life as it is. Is it not true? So, learning to understand the truth, and it's not I, but right understanding begins to develop, it begins to grow little by little to understand. But it's quite very, very subtle because the ignorance is there. How much from moment of opening one's eyes on and on to the end of tonight, or ignorance of what is there. So the understanding has to develop in order to understand what is there as something. In truth, nothing, just gone. In order to letting go, the clinging to the circle of birth and death, on and on, as before. Just whether this is true or not. At that moment, Panya, not anyone at all, understands and then gone and arise again, listen again, consider again, understanding again, on and on, little by little, about the truth until that which appears as usually something is not there anymore. In few moments of directly experience it only. But after that, it's just the same. So understand the truth. That is the way it is. No one can change it at all. It has to be such like that. But the understand of the truth begins to develop. No matter whatever is seen right now, it's just like what one has heard and studied and understand it as the truth is only that.
Are you still there, John? We're not hearing you.
Okay, I forgot again to turn on because someone's coming. Okay, is that true?
Yes, yes, it is true. And I also think about what we say, something arises and then disappears, never to arise again. And on a gross level, this morning when I was walking, I was thinking of each step I take, that the last one is gone already. And I know that's just thinking, and it's thinking on a conceptual level, but it sort of helps, but it doesn't really, because too much of that sort of thinking is wrong thinking. But that the preciseness of arising and falling is so fast that it's sometimes, I wonder, is it really possible to understand that? But obviously, because the Buddha did understand, did see, and proceeded to show us. So yes, it must be truthful.
And
And another,
yes,
sorry, I
please.
don't go on. No, go Achan.
If there's no a moment of understanding, even intellectually, can it lead to more understanding in order to let go ignorance and attachment? This is the point. When we understand how much ignorance is there, can it be eradicated or eliminated so soon with few moments or few days or months of just one life? Impossible. Thinking about the truth of this moment, no understanding of anyone which appears as together like someone and something. So how can there be the moment of realizing the truth that is there arising and falling away by conditions, but from hearing in intellectual understanding can lead to more understanding is so true. And otherwise, while you were walking, there can't be any thought about the foot or whatever is there at all. But from hearing again and again, it begins to understand or think about that rightly, correctly, that actually what is there. But it's not clear yet. That's why when there's more understanding, what is there is the object of, we can say, attention or awareness, because the characteristic of awareness does not appear clearly, apparently, but it's begin to be there, even just very, very short moment and story of it, thinking about what is there as my foot I'm walking is there again. That's why it has to go through ignorance and attachment at moment of directly understanding it, just even very shortly. For example, right now, there can be a moment of attending to the characteristic which is hard, but what about the understanding? But it's different from other moment when there's no attention to that object at all, until it is panya begins to develop and awareness is firm than before, because it just arises and be aware, no thought about it as it is the object, its heart, and so on. Little by little. That's why each one is different. So the development of understanding is akaliko and can be just oneself. No one, ehipassiko. The other cannot understand that moment because it is the arising of a moment of beginning to develop the understanding. And it has to be like this. So no regret, no thought about how can it arise more than that. And how can I do it? Impossible. But the understanding is take it easy as it is by conditions. No change of anything. It's there already. And in truth, it's gone already. And the next one arising instantly. So the arising and falling away of the past one does not appear at all from moment to moment. This is the way ignorance and attachments covers up the truth of whatever is there now. So there can be the beginning of the truth of the first Ariya Satya. It arises and falls away. That is its truth. But when it's not directly experienced until it is the eradication of wrong understanding and ignorance of which arises with wrong understanding, it must be just like this. But Panya begin to go down deeper than just what appears is something into it cannot be anything until it is there, but its arising and falling away does not show up yet, little by little. That's why Buddha said after his enlightenment, Dhammas are so very deep, very subtle, very difficult to realize the truth of it. And this is what he said. As he said, so very deep. What is there is covered up. It's like what is there under the ocean. And we just look at the surface like now. See, it's hard, but it has a reason and it falls away instantly, unknown. Only its heart is there. But the truth is that much more deeper than that. No one there at all, nothing at all. The way the world is, breaking all the time, arising and falling away each moment. But this can develop little by little from hearing and considering, and no one knows how much it develops because it's just like touching the knife handle, how much it's wear away. No one knows, but without touching, can it wear away so that it can be seen that it is not as usual. So one understands the truth of Khanti Parami, Virya Parami, Satya Parami, never change from this truth. To be truthful to the truth, actually no me, no things at all. What is seen is just like magic. It's just like that. But what is there in truth? And this is why one begins to understand the great virtues of the Buddha. Without understanding the truth, who's the Buddha? Just pay respect. But what about? To what? Respect to what? But to the truth that no one can know until his enlightenment, and he's so very compassionate to see that without his teachings, no one can understand the truth of what is there now. So it's not just only one life, but it depends on the satya, the truth, how much understanding from hearing again and again and again. It develops so very, very slowly, little by little, thinking of a moment of hearing the truth and moment of eons and eons ago, not hearing the truth of it, and how much ignorance and attachment from moment to moment must be there.
Ajahn, could I ask you a question, please?
Please.
I read one of the book that written by you, but translated in Vietnamese. I can't remember the name of the book, but I read in the book about the it said about the Pavanga Chitta. It said that when you're in deep sleep, Pavanga Chitta can have the samasati. Could you please explain to me about that?
Excuse me, it is only sati or samasati?
Because the book translated as samasati. So that's why I could not understand.
What is that?
It's sati, because in Vietnamese we use the same word for samasati and sati. So
should it be sati or should it be samasati?
It's just sati.
Just sati, yes. Anyway, could you please explain how Bhavanga Chitta can have sati when you're in the deep sleep? Thank you.
Okay. We have to understand from the very beginning is that deep sleep. See,
Yes,
we
when
have
you
to
don't have
consider
dream.
again and again and again. Each word is there any moment of deep sleep.
I think so, because when you don't have the dream, you don't have any
No.
dream, that means you are deep sleep.
To be truthful, is there any moment of deep sleep? This is the beginning of understanding. It's not just expect or it seems or I suppose, but the truth is that is there any moment of deep sleep? What
No.
and what does it mean? Deep sleep. See, each word should be studied. What does it mean? Sleep and deep sleep. See, are they different? Sleep can be dream some moments, but deep sleep, no dream at all.
That's right, yes.
So what is there at that very moment?
You mean the deep sleep or just sleep? Which one?
Are you talking about Pawanga
Yes,
and Sati?
yes,
So we have to understand the different moment when there is Sati and when there is no Sati, right?
right.
In order to understand the moment without Sati, we have to study the truth of each moment. For example, at moment of deep sleep, is there anything?
No, it's just the
Then,
Bhavanga Chitta, yeah.
so Pavankachita is there. So
Yes,
there is something, right?
yes,
Not just nothing at all. But it
yes.
does not appear. And why it cannot appear, there must be understanding of the truth of each moment. That person doesn't die yet. So there must be that which is there, unknown, right? No one knows what is there while
Uh,
it is sleep, right? Deep sleep.
yes,
But there must be chitta, right?
yes.
Because that person doesn't die yet. So what is there in that very moment? Can there be like or dislike at that
No,
very moment of deep sleep?
no,
Can be wholesome moment?
no.
See, that's the understanding of the difference of each moment. So even the moment of deep sleep of different people are different, right? The moment where Buddha deep sleep, Sariputta deep sleep, a snake deep sleep, or anyone deep sleep, what is there must be different, right? Or are they the same?
It should be the same.
In what sense? In what way?
That is no dreaming. Uh, no, only there is something there like Bhavanga Chitta only.
Yes, but what makes different between Buddha's deep sleep, Sariputta deep sleep, snake deep sleep, or anyone deep sleep? Is there any difference?
Sorry, Ajahn, I don't know. Because Buddha is an enlightened person, so I don't know.
Didn't Buddha have any kilesa, ignorance?
No,
And what about the others?
yes,
Different or no
yes.
different? That's why the sati is there as the result, the vipaka of wholesome citta, right?
All right, yes.
If Buddha didn't teach about this, who can know that moment? It does not experience anything. So the citta and cetasika at that moment does not perform other function at all. no seeing, no hearing, no thinking. How can there be kusala and akusala? See, because it's just the result of one karma to condition the birth consciousness, different ones, by different accumulation and just different all the time, just in a moment. Everything is so quite different. So if there is no sati at that moment, how can there be moment of kusala later when there is seeing, hearing, thinking, and so on? And the difference is there as the patisantichitta of human being and animal kingdom are different. And even each one is different by accumulation. But when it is the kusala vipaka, the kusala chitta condition, the chitta, which is vipaka, with sati and wholesome chetasikas.
Yes.
So your question again, please.
My question is not at the deep sleep. Bhavanga Chitta has sati.
So when it's not deep sleep, what is there?
When is not deep sleep, there is sati as well.
Sorry, we have to talk about just one moment at a time. Now we're talking about moment of deep sleep and
Yes.
moment which is not deep sleep. Is there any difference?
In terms of the chittas, you mean Ajahn?
Yes, because there must be chitta all the time when one
Yes.
doesn't lie yet. No matter sleep or deep sleep. So is there any difference when we talk about sleep, moment of sleep, whether it's deep or not deep?
If that's the case, there's no difference because that chittas all the time.
So shall we use the word sleep and deep sleep because they're not different? But when it's different, that's why we use different word. What about last night? Did you sleep well? Did you sleep well last night?
Yes.
No dream
No.
every night?
No, not every night.
So
When I have something I worry, then I don't have a good sleep.
and what is there while you are sleeping?
Because I'm thinking.
So, but it's not like when you wake up, right? You think it's while you are sleeping, but it's when it's not deep sleep by conditions. That's
Right.
why we call
Yes.
it a dream because it's there. No one knows what is the dream until Buddha said that it's the moment when there is thinking while one is asleep, right?
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
as a moment of seeing and hearing and talking right now. The difference of each moment. Each moment is different. It cannot arise again, never to return. Each one. This is a breaking world all the time, unknown. Otherwise, one take it also very pleasant world, pleasant, delicious food, pleasant objects all the time through seeing, hearing, and so on. But actually, that which arises and falls away, never to arise again, forever, never to be found any moment anywhere at all. Where was it? Gone completely. This is each moment. So one clings to that which is gone. Talking about the dream, See?
Even in the deep sleep, Ajahn, so there's moment of arising and falling away as well.
No. What is the difference between sleep and dream and deep sleep?
In the concept world that deep sleep you have no dream. In a normal sleep you can have dream sometimes, and dream is thinking.
Can we say that we begin to understand the moments of different citta performing each different function? For example, Bhavanka, what is it? In order to understand deep sleep, what is Bhavanka? See, otherwise it's only our ideas about everything, every science, every story, but about the truth of each moment. If there's not enough understanding, there cannot be the elimination of the idea of self, because the self is thinking. What we take from me, Vedana Khanda, there must be feeling, Sanya Khanda, and other Cetasikas, and Chitta, that which experiences what is there at any moment. There cannot be Chitta without experiencing an object, even while one is fast asleep or Bhavanka. So what is there in that Bhavanka? Different. The thief, the criminal, and the good one. Everyone sleep, but what is there for one person, different from other person by accumulation? So for the kusala vipaka, which condition vipaka, the moment of sleep, since the cause arises with sati, so the result of it arises with sati. But it cannot be aware of seeing or hearing or anything, because at that moment the object of Bhavanka is not the object of this world, it's the object of the past world,
Right.
the
Yes.
moment before death. So it does not appear, because it performs the function of Bhavanka, just keep on living, life continuum. This is the difference between being Bhavanka and moment when it's not Bhavanka. And no one can change the result of the karma. When it is the result of akusala karma, there cannot be sati, which is the vipaka of such karma, because the akusala citta doesn't have sati. But when it is wholesome moment, there must be sati arising with such moment, with kusala moment. So when it produces a conditioned result, because that moment arises with sati, so when the vipaka, the result must be the result of that moment, which has the sati with it, with any kusala vipaka only. When we talk about Bhavanka,
So you mean in like for the normal person, Ajahn, in the normal sleep, the normal person can have the sati with kusala or akusala. Yes.
can sati arise with akusala?
No. Sorry. No. Sati always go with kusala.
So when akusala citta condition the akusala vipaka, can there be sati with akusala vipaka?
Akusala chitta condition the akusala.
Vipaka. And when akusala citta doesn't have sati arising with it, how can the result have sati with it? But for the kusala vipaka, what condition kusala vipaka? The moment of kusala with sati. So the vipaka is the result of that which has sati with it. So what is conditioned by it has sati with it.
Yes, thank you so much. Yes, it's better now, but better understanding for me now. Thank you, Ajahn.
So the teaching of the Buddha just talk about what is there so natural, because no one there condition different things, but no understanding of the condition and where it is, and even the characteristic of that which is now appearing. So thinking about how much ignorance compiled, accumulated, so much. So how can there be no more? Stage by stage until completely no more kusala. And by understanding this, one can understand the virtues of the Buddha. Everyone pays respect to the wholesome reality, not unwholesome, and how great wholesome panya and purity and compassion of the enlightened one. Otherwise, we cannot just understand what is there now at all. So study his teaching, each word with respect, because it's so very deep, so very true, absolute truth. And the skillful of understanding the teaching can condition the moment of directly understand whatever is there by condition. And that moment, the characteristic of sammasati different from sati when there's no panya.
I also have another question if no one asks. I have a question.
Go ahead, Tom. Your questions are great. Thank you.
Thank you. I also have another question regarding about the Vitti Chitta. So if there is Vitti Chitta, the Bhavanga Chitta disappear, or is it underneath the Vitti Chitta? What I'm saying that when there is Vitti Chitta, it overrides the Bhavanga Chitta. That's why when there is no Vitti Chitta, the Bhavanga Chitta appears. Is that right? Or when there is Vitti Chitta appears, Bhavanga Chitta disappear completely. Can you understand what I mean? Thank you.
What we mean by Vitti Chitta?
You know, like there's the eye seeing, all the consciousness, the hearing, the touching. When there is the experiencing of the eye, the ear, and there is no Bhavanga Chitta.
Does each chitta have its function, its own characteristic?
Yes.
So what is the function of Bhavanga?
It maintains what I understand is it maintains the life of the moment.
Does it see?
No, it doesn't say.
So it's different from moment of seeing, right?
Yes.
So when there is seeing, can it see by just suddenly or by conditions?
I think
Like,
condition.
for instance, without the eye base, the eye sense, can they be seeing?
No.
So at moment of seeing, it experiences that which is there, seen, right?
Yes. So where is the Bhavanga Chitta then? It
And
disappears
there's
completely?
something about seeing right now to understand the difference between the seeing moment and Bhavanka moment. Now you understand the word, the moment of Bhavanka, or is there any doubt about it? That just Bhavanka, one citta at a time. Now we are talking about Bhavanka, so no doubt about it. And then we talk about seeing, right?
Yes.
And is seeing the same as Bhavanka?
No.
So
Seeing.
can Bhavanka see?
No.
Does Bhavanka hear?
No.
So at moment of seeing, is it Bhavanka or it is seeing?
It's seeing.
So it's not Bhavanka, right?
No, but is it hiding?
Pardon?
Is it hiding, or is it hiding underneath the seeing process,
Where
or
is
it disappear completely?
no, one citta arises at a time, right?
Yes.
When it arises, it falls away instantly as soon as it has arisen. So very quickly, can there be any citta there besides that which sees, the moment of seeing? Can there be other citta at that moment together?
Uh no, I've been told that there's only one chitta at a
So at
moment.
moment, so at moment of seeing, it's not moment of Bhavanka, right?
Yes.
At
But how
moment
come,
of
Ajahn, how
seeing.
come when there is no seeing, Bhavanga chitta appear straight away?
Okay, does the Patisanti citta fall away?
Sorry, Patija.
But the Santi, the birth consciousness, does it
Yes.
fall away too?
Yes. Of the moment of seeing.
And is there any citta after the birth consciousness has fallen away?
Yes, there is the other teachers like there are many other teachers coming after the seeing. For example,
No,
like the Sampatichana, Sentirana.
no, sorry, I'm talking about Patisanti citta. Does it fall away
Yes.
as soon as it has arisen? And is
Yes.
there any citta after it?
Any chitta after, yes.
What that citta is? What is characteristic and what is its function?
The next chitta after the Sampatichana is the
No, no,
Sentirana.
no, not Sampatichana. Please, birth consciousness, Patisanti citta, not
Oh, birth consciousness.
Sampatichana.
Sorry, I missed that. Yeah.
We go back to the moment of birth in order to understand the difference between seeing and Bhavanka. All depends on understanding, not just the word, because the word just represents the characteristic of our reality right then, from moment to moment. So we understand that at moment of birth, there is one citta at a time. There can
Yes.
be other citta with it. So at moment of seeing, seeing is not Bhavanka, and Bhavanka is not seeing. While Bhavanka arises, it performs its function, life continuum. And when
Yes.
it's seeing, it cannot perform the function of Bhavanka citta because of karma. Karma does not produce or condition just Patisanti and Bhavanka, but it conditioned the moment of seeing as well. What about
All right.
this
Yes.
Patisanti and Bhavanka? Useless. No result of karma at all. But the result of karma is after birth and Bhavanka, there must be the karma which conditions seeing to arise as its vipaka result to experience such pleasant or unpleasant object, because it's
Right.
either the result of wholesome citta or unwholesome citta. No one can arrange or control at all, or by conditions. Condition to condition pawang citta, condition to condition seeing.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I understand better now. Yes, thank you, Ajahn.
While we're talking about this, there can be moment of understanding what is there by conditions too, depending on how much accumulation of right understanding can condition such moment. Only one in his lifetime or in samsara, never to arise again. And this is the absolute truth of whatever is there at any time right now.
So we can think of karma as like a condition.
Everything is conditioned to arise, fall away. And what is that? Is conditioned by absolute realities, by different paccaya or condition. Is seeing a condition?
For the next kita, yes.
No, at the moment when there is seeing.
It just perform the seeing. So I would say no, it's not a condition.
No, the question is just, is seeing itself a condition? Not only 24 conditions, that's all, and the name, but the understanding to know that actually there's no one and there's no self. That is the way to study Dhamma, not study people and thing and situation, but Dhamma itself. Citta, cetasika, rupa. So the question now, when we talk about conditions, nothing can arise without condition. So the question for considering to have understanding of oneself more and more about no one at all is seeing itself a condition.
Very good question, but I don't know. Sorry.
See? So when we talk about condition, that's not enough. We have to understand more and more, little by little, about everything to condition the understanding of the truth. No one there. Otherwise, it's I all the time. But condition, see, nothing can arise without condition. And what are conditions? So the question now, just considering the thinking about, is seeing itself a condition?
I don't know, but maybe someone else in the Zoom can help me with this. Sorry.
I didn't talk about by what way or by what manner or what condition, but only seeing. Is seeing a condition? Seeing itself,
Yes, I think so.
nothing understanding. Thing can be right or wrong.
So yes, seeing is the condition by itself at the moment.
Why do you say that seeing is a condition?
Because I am thinking that it is the condition for the
I am thinking, can you think like Buddha said? So
the seeing chitta arrives and disappears, but the condition is for the next chitta.
no, in
Conditioning.
I just talk about the seeing at moment when it arises. Is it a condition? Otherwise, we cannot understand the truth. We talk about condition, but we don't know at all what condition is there or not there. Nothing can arise without condition. No change, absolute truth. To understand better and better, clearer and clearer about the truth, to understand that actually, even intellectual understanding, when it's firm, when it's skillful, it cannot bring about any wrong understanding, no change. It does not go to the meditation center or to do something like sitting and walking and just for the purpose of what? See, no understanding at all. That's why how can anyone understand what is meant by the teachings of the truth? Is so very, very subtle. And now we're talking about the subtlety, little by little, to understand better and better how deep it is, how subtle it is, how it can be developed until the truth show up as it is, as we have learned. To have no doubt about it anymore, about the Four Noble Truth. See, anyone can tell you, but can that be your own understanding if there's no thinking, considering, reflecting on it at all? So it's not the other's word, but the word that you listen, remember, sanya is there, and consider until it's clear.
So Ajahn is seeing is the condition, is seeing at the moment is the condition from either akusala or kusala vipaka.
Seeing itself is what?
Experiencing.
By way of chati, kusala, akusala, vipaka, kiriya. Without understanding, everything is so dark, so blind, not clear at all. But when there's more understanding, considering little by little, there can be the understanding of the truth. But the clinging and ignorance to the self is so enormous, so great that no one can take it away or eradicate it at once at all. So very sticky, so very thick, very dark. How can it be cleaned up little by little? Only clear understanding of the word of the Buddha. Each word is so very deep, very subtle, because he had directly experienced, enlightened the truth of everything. No doubt about any reality at all, and much more understanding of reality beyond imagination. So study the teaching carefully of one word at a time. And when there's no understanding, it cannot be forgotten, but it depends on conditions for it to arise again.
Yes, thank you, Ajahn. Yep.
No answer yet? Keep it for considering.
Could I answer for her? Well,
Please.
it's not for her, it's my answer.
Yes, please.
Seeing, the moment of seeing, could that condition liking or disliking?
I just talk about one moment of seeing. What we said, seeing is citta, right?
Okay.
Citta, which sees, is it a condition?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It could condition the arising of either lopa or dosa.
That
Oh,
is at the moment. That is at the moment. But in a moment itself, moment of seeing itself, is it a condition?
I'm going to have another guess. And it conditions the arising of the jeta seekers with it.
It's not guess, right?
It's not a guess. It's right.
Because you see that when one is not sure, it's I who think, because it's one own thought. But when it's so true by considering, it cannot be changed. Chitta conditions cetasika. Is that what we heard for long year time until now, right?
Yes. Yes.
But it's not there as understanding enough. It's only remembering the word. That's why not just the word, but each word should be considered carefully. So to understand it's true, which is the absolute truth, cannot be changed at all. Each reality is a condition.
Achan, I have a question. When you were asking the question, of course, we've heard that all, as Azita gave the answer, all conditioned dhammas are also a condition for other dhammas. This is what we've heard and what we remember. But I was still thinking about the difference between, if instead of asking the question to Tam that is seeing condition a condition, you asked is seeing conditioned, it would have been easier to say yes. But when you ask the question that seeing itself a condition, then it's as we can see, it's taking so long to give the answer. So I'm wondering whether there's a difference in the possible of understanding what appears now as being conditioned as against as being a condition. Is there any difference in the understanding?
That's why we have to understand one object at a time, right?
Yes, Ajahn.
So when we're talking about condition, we just talk about that which condition the other thing to arise, right?
Yes.
So seeing is there. And
Yes.
we have learned that seeing conditions, cetasika, which arises with it, right? By
Yes.
sahajata pajaya, it has to arise together. That is the function of sahajata, that chitta is sahajata pajaya for cetasika, and pajaya, and cetasikas, which are conditioned, is pajayupanna. That's why we learn a little more to understand the truth of it, because it's impossible just to hear that Chitta is not self. It experiences, and then can it be the direct understanding of the reality which experiences instantly? Impossible. That's why the hearing, considering, understanding better and better, little by little, can condition moment of understanding. For example, when we talk about, now we're talking about the first vipassana jhana, see, but it's not that degree of understanding yet, but it is the beginning of vipassana to be understood directly, to experience directly at that moment. So now we are talking about that which experiences, and we use the word nama, and that which cannot experience as the word rupa. But the truth is that it has the different characteristics, right? This is the understanding which will condition moment to understand what is meant by experiencing and what is meant by cannot experience. It's daily lives so true. Hardness cannot see, it cannot think. It's its only hard. And that which experiences is not hard. What is it is just it can only experience only that. But there are so many realities which can experience an object. That's why we talk about sometimes 52 kinds, 53, 52 are Cetasika, and Chitta is also Nama, which experience. So there are, we can say 53. It doesn't matter at all, the number, but the understanding is there. That's why Buddha taught about one reality in different aspects. Lopa as Asya, as what and what, Nivarana, and so on. Because they have such characteristics, different at a time, only once in samsara. That's why when we talk about citta and whatever is there arising, it needs or must have its own proper conditions. That's why even the rupa, the eye base, it's there. See, it's conditioned, and it conditioned for is a condition for citta to see, to arise. So the eye base is a condition for citta to arise, and it is conditioned by Mahabhuta Rupa, the four primary rupas. See, all are very complex because they are such like that. Only a moment in lifetime.
So,
This
and this question was very good. Yeah, because we tend to just say it so easily that everything is conditioned and all that, but we don't even know what it means to be conditioned, what it means to be a condition. So we usually only have the story of what it means to be conditioned by and to be a condition, but no understanding of the nature of a reality, being what it is, and therefore being a condition and conditioned.
That's why we learn to understand what would that mean. Dhamma is so very subtle, so true when Panya is there. Go down deeper and deeper to the arising and falling away of whatever is there now, appearing. Just to condition the understanding of no self, no thing, only different realities, from moment to moment, from life to life, endlessly, as long as there are conditions for its arising.
Kun Su Kin, I really appreciate your answer, Tanajan. I think it was a really good question because when you're talking about, essentially we're talking about conditionality, and this helps us to appreciate, excuse me, the nature of not self. And Ajahn touched on things like sahajata, or the sahajata paccaya, which is the condition which talks about the birth of different chittas at a particular moment that rise together. And then, so we can begin to appreciate many different conditions that arise at that are operative, shall we say, at a particular moment. So, we can begin to appreciate that. Oh, there's just a car coming, I'm sorry. I'm just going for a walk at the moment because they're doing quite a bit of work at the house that I'm staying at the moment. So I kind of lost my thread a bit, but I think it was a really good question because there is a difference, and I'm just trying to get my thread back again on that point that there are so many different conditions. Another one we can talk about is Ajahn talked about anantara paccaya. One chitta has to fall away to enable another chitta to arise. And then you've got samanantara, which was there has to be a particular, that after panchviññāna there is seeing. Before at the moment of the avajjana, then there has to be by way of samanantara, there has to be seeing. So there are all these particular conditions that are arising at a particular moment, so we can begin to see that it's very, very complex. It's nothing to do with a self at all. It's just different conditions that are operative at a particular moment that lead on, that continue on the cycle of moment to moment, or from life to life, or from, and so on and so on and so on.
That's why the intellect understanding, even is so very, very firm, it's not enough. Because when it's so firm, it will condition moment of understanding what is there, as it hasn't been known or understood before. And even that which doesn't show up, when it doesn't show up, how can there be the understanding of it? Only when it show up as sammasati. See, we are talking about sati arising with panya of an object, with understanding the characteristic only one at a time. But when it's not there yet, how can there be the understanding of that as that we have heard? But when it's there, no doubt about it at all when it's there. So no doubt about the nature of any reality when it's there. As just there, as its nature, no one there at all. It's the beginning. But the understanding of the Kichayana, not only Satyayana, is not enough. Because even now we have the understanding that everything is such what we have heard from the Buddha. But it's not one's own direct understanding of that yet. But Buddha taught about how to develop right understanding of each moment very, very carefully. That's why when we read Tipitaka, what we just pass without attention at all can be object of understanding, considering more and more, little by little, until it knows. For example, now, everyone knows that hardness is there and it cannot experience and it's hard. But only that, hurt and then gone. But when it's there, the sati shows up as it's there, being aware with beginning to study the characteristic that one has heard. But it cannot be certain as that as soon as it's there, it understands clearly. But it is many moments by conditions. It can be, oh, it's that, oh, only it's that. But who I know is there. See, so it never enough to understand what is there in a day, which does not show up until it show up as it is to be object of understanding that we have heard so long time ago about it. Like sati, see, sati and sammasati, and what about other factors of enlightenment must be there too. Viriya, see, and so on. But no name at all. The characteristic, when it appears as the object, no name. That they can be thinking later about it. But it seems like, or at once, like just now. But so many, many processes in between with Bhavanga. That's right. That's right, to understand the truth.
However, Tanajan, we can begin to appreciate how very, very valuable to have correct pariyatti, to have a good understanding of the teachings intellectually are, that can lead on to deeper understanding.
Ajahn, go.
No,
Ajahn, please.
no, that's like, yeah, please go ahead, Sukin.
No, Ajahn, I was asking Ajahn to go ahead.
Just to let go, little by little, the idea of self, or clinging so much to everything as it used to be, because understanding that it's just past, it's gone. Never to arise again until it's firm enough, strong enough to really let it go. And how can one know whether it's firm enough? As long as it's not the clear understanding, which is vipassana jnana. It's just thinking, understanding roughly about what is heard. But since it does not appear just as one reality at a time, how can there be clear understanding of the truth of it? That it cannot be anything else, it's only there by conditions. That's why we have no doubt about how long the Savaka or even Bodhisattva develop right understanding to realize the truth, to directly experience the truth, no doubt about it. But still, see, so many doubt about everything in life, from moment of waking up and to the moment of sleep, see, unknown. And when Panya is there, it has to know by conditions. It takes how long to understand that even just that which experiences is not known because it says already no understanding of the truth that it's a reality which experiences. So what is the meaning of seeing is experiencing an object, or what is the meaning of experiencing an object? See, until it's there, it does not have any shape or form or any rupa with it at all, and nothing there, only that which experiences. And the first vipassana jnana does not experience the arising and falling away of what is there, because what is clear of that degree is only the moment when it shows up as it is, only one object at a time. That is quite a long way to go to understand what Buddha taught about different aspects of panya, intellectual understanding, pariyatti, and patipatti, and pativeda. When it's not patipatti, how can it be pativeda? To experience, to enlighten the truth of that, just only one. And what is meant by only one cannot be expected. Only one means that nothing is there as object. See, how long will it take? But it doesn't matter at all, as long as it's so true. It can be directly enlightened one day by panya, which has developed enough to experience for that object to show up as it is. And
So,
this is
Achan, it seems there's a little more understanding why you keep reminding us that this study is to let go of the idea of self. It's all this seems to be geared towards understanding that there is no self. All this intellectual understanding is to leads to understanding, firm understanding that there's no self, and that itself is what letting go the idea of self is about.
That's why each word should be carefully studied again and again and again. And the word of the Buddha cannot be changed because it is the absolute truth that he had enlightened. And this is the way he showed to experience as he had experienced or enlightened the truth.
And I was thinking yesterday too, Kunsukin, about the second vipassana jnana, which is what we're kind of been talking about here. It's called Paccaya Parigyaha jnana, which is knowing thoroughly or grasping well the nature of conditionality. And the more understanding there can be of the nature of conditions, not only, of course, at the level of pariyatti, and as Thanajan said, this can lead on, if you don't have skillful, correct pariyatti, then you will not have patiweda. So all this patient sharing that Thanajan does with us, as I'm sure you realize, leads on to deeper understanding, and everything is so interconnected. And I think this is what we can begin to appreciate, that that is the nature of conditions. It's nothing at all about itself, which is so deeply ingrained and deeply held, these deeply held beliefs, these wrong beliefs that we think this is the way it is, but it's nothing like that at all. And this better understanding at all sorts of levels is so valuable.
And Sundara, I'm thinking that without the intellectual understanding, that firm understanding that there is no self, there's no way to understand, to reach that level that you were just referring to.
No, absolutely not. This is so vital, and we can begin to appreciate not only Thanajan and what she shared with us, but how valuable it is to have this level of understanding, which can be a condition for deeper understanding more and more. Thanajan is always, like she often gives the example of Bhante Asaji, when he shared that with when he shared those truths with Sariputta. He didn't know what was going to appear at that particular moment when he heard those words, but that was the right time and the right conditions were there for him to understand what those words were, what those words represented, and how that was a condition for Sariputta. He wasn't Sariputta at that time, of course. He was Upatissa. So, but in time, he had that accumulated wisdom, which Thanajan is helping us with now, so that one day we will we'll be in that fortunate position. Because Sariputta, or Upatissa as he was then, had heard that teaching, had heard that Dhamma for many long time, and that was the right time. So we can begin to appreciate that it's so valuable to keep on considering, to keep on hearing, and when there are the right conditions, a deeper understanding will arise.
Sundara, you gave a description of Vipalasa the other evening as upside down, and I thought that was a really good explanation of it, because now in one of the suttas that I've read, somebody was speaking and thanking the Buddha for turning up the right way. What was it was a pot, turning the pot up the right way. And I can see where, because that used to puzzle me, and I can see where it comes from now, that he showed the right way up, not the wrong way up.
Yeah, no, that's so true, and it's quite a as Thanajan has mentioned this too, that when the teachings are understood, it's like somebody holds a lamp up, or somebody shows us what reality truly is. Not this, as we talked about earlier, about Vipalasa, which completely turns upside down, or gives us a very perverse or very wrong idea about reality. Funny enough, I was just preparing an email to share with everybody on the subject, and I've looked much more closely at that word vipallasa, which literally means we, mean the sense that beginning part like wisama, or there are lots of words, or like wikala bojana. Wikala means wrong. Wikala bojana means the inappropriate time or the wrong time. So we pari, and pari means thorough, complete, and as means to be. So literally the word means vipallasa means to be wrong thoroughly, to be wrong thoroughly. You can say it upside down. That's one way of looking at it too. I've just looked a lot more closely at that word. And of course, as Tanajan would remind us, that just knowing the word doesn't have to be helpful at all intellectually. But when we can begin to see that it's been thoroughly wrong, it's a thorough, that Sanya Vipallasa remembers the reality which appears as completely wrong to what it is. It's completely different. It was literally completely wrong. The way that we normally view, like in Ditti Vipallasa, we view people and things and objects, and we take them for real. And that is completely wrong. And getting back to what you were saying then, Azita, about thoroughly wrong. Like we have the word parinya, which means thorough knowledge, or parinibbana, which means complete or thorough release or extinction, if you like. So these words can help us, but if there's not the correct pariyatti, we will still have the wrong idea, no matter how much understanding. But when, with the aid of Tanajan, we're able to appreciate that this skillful pariyatti can lead on to a deeper understanding. And then those words, as you've pointed out, can be helpful in helping us to understand, like those people at the time of the Buddha who said, and it's a very common refrain after these suttas, you have held up the lamp, you've put upside down, which was completely the other way, or you put correct in the correct way, which was completely wrong before. And that with the aid of panya, those people which the Buddha helped to understand with their accumulations, which had been done with, like what we're doing now, listening and reconsidering all the time, that facilitates that deeper wisdom.
So, Sundara, what you're saying is that for us, we may have some understanding that Vipallasa is wrong, but as the understanding develops and it reaches those higher levels, then we can see more clearly how it is completely wrong, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that as Tanajan would remind us, it's a little by little moment, like the adze handle or the handle of the knife, whatever you like to call that handle. There is a gradual wearing away. And of course, there are many levels of wisdom. Panya has many, it seems to me, millions of different levels before there is even Sota Patimagga. So what we are, with the aid of Tanajan, we're able to little by little begin to appreciate how valuable the correct pariyatti is. And as you're alluding there to, Kunsakin, is that this distortion or this, it's interesting because that word vipallasa in English, as it probably is in Thai, is translated in so many different ways. Sometimes it's translated as hallucinations, like, which is quite a strong word, or distortion or perversion, or so we know it's through that sense of it that it's wrong, that it's completely opposite to what we think it is, or it's distortion, as I say, or upside down, or topsy turvy, or it's just incorrect. When we think there is, like the reality which appears now, which we think is, I'm walking down a little lane here at the moment. They're doing some repairs in the house where I stay. So I'm just walking around and can see this world. It just seems to me so real. And because of my my own understanding of the Dhamma, little by little, I can begin, at least intellectually, to appreciate that what appears is just visual object. However, it seems to me also I'm with all my accumulated ignorance at the same time, but we know it's different moments. So it's a little by little process. So I guess we can begin to appreciate that.
Suntra,
How,
have we go back to the point that answer the Ajahn about the Pachaya of the seeing? Because we talk about the Pachaya Dhamma. We talk about the Pachayupanna Dhamma. When we talk about the Chitta, about the Shati, Vipaka Chitta, and what is the Vipaka Pachaya? You can answer the question, Ajahn question, and you can explain everybody, please.
well, good to hear, Kun Nopadon. But I think what Ajahn was speaking about at that particular time, if we go back, and I'd like Ajahn perhaps to follow up with what I've shared, is that there are many different conditions at any particular moment. Like you talk about Vipaka, you're talking about Vipaka then just briefly at the moment of seeing, for example, which will be, which follows the Awajjana Chitta by way of Samanantara-Paccaya, and also by way of Anantara-Paccaya, because one chitta follows the next one by way of Anantara-Paccaya. And then there are so many different conditions, and they're all tied very intricately. You know, Nati-Paccaya, because it's not there anymore. There are all sorts of conditions that are the support condition for the next chitta to arise, and to condition each other in so many different ways. Like we often talk about, or it's often, Ajahn often talks about, and Sarah does also talk a lot about that Pakatupanasya Paccaya, because of how kusala supports kusala, or how akusala supports akusala, and so on. So we can begin to understand that the nature of conditionality at any particular moment. I'm not sure if I completely understood your question, but perhaps, though I appreciate hearing from you, Kun Nopadon, and perhaps Tanajan could answer that question a little bit more. I'd like to hear what she has to say on this matter.
No, Suntra. I mean that you talk about, would you talk about the Vipaka Paccaya? That is the answer of the condition, Pachubanna Dhamma, of the seeing. You see, Ajahn asked about the seeing, chitta seeing, right? What is the Paccaya? I mean that it is the Vipaka Chitta, and it's a Vipaka Paccaya. That's the point. That I would like you explain because you understand the Paccaya. Okay.
Well, I appreciate your confidence in me, Kunsikin. Sorry, Kun Nopadon, but this area is still very, very new to me. I appreciate learning about it because it can be a condition for a better understanding of the nature of conditionality. But you're talking about Paccayupanna Dhammas, which are the presently arising Dhammas, and I know that Tanajan would always be reminding us that this is just not an intellectual pursuit, you know, to know all these different Pali words or these Pali terms or whatever. But the Paccayupanna Dhamma that presently arises, that's important to be understood what that represents. As one aspect of it certainly is the reality is a reminder of the presently arising reality, which yes, has been conditioned by past karmas, So there will be a condition for the vipaka citta to arise by way of seeing or hardness or softness or any other of the realities which can appear by way of the sense doors, which again will be a condition for all these other different conditions which are interconnected in all sorts of different ways, and none of these, of course, relates to the idea. None of these, of course, is related to the idea of a self, which is just a misunderstanding or a vipalasa, if you like, a distortion of the truth of what appears, rather than having this, rather than having the understanding which, by way of the Dhamma, we're able to appreciate more and more. I'm not too sure if I've answered that question, but I would like to hear what Tanajan has to say about this matter.
We have to understand what's meant by vipaka, the result of karma. So vipaka citta and vipaka citta and vipaka cetasika are conditioned by karma. And when they arise together, it means that one karma conditioned citta, which is vipaka, and cetasika, which has vipaka as well, because it's the result of that particular karma. But when they arise together, even karma conditioned citta and cetasikas to arise to be vipaka of such karma. But when they arise together, citta conditioned vipaka cetasika, which arises with it by way of being vipaka together. Because the vipaka citta cannot condition kusala or akusala with cetasika to arise, but since they were conditioned by one particular karma to condition them to just arise and perform the function. But since they arise together as sahachata pattaya, but by way of being vipaka, which condition vipaka.
So, Ajahn, it seems to be something new here. We're talking about mutual condition dhammas, but you just added a factor I've never heard about before, that because both are vipaka, there is some mutuality because of that fact that both are conditioned by the same karma. Therefore, they each is a condition for each other by that, for that reason too.
Because some might think that the citta can condition the other vipaka, right? Of other citta. But since they arise together by karma condition them, each one, karma condition vipaka citta, and karma also condition vipaka cetasika to arise. But since they arise together at once, each depends on the other. That's why the vipaka citta also condition cetasika, but only vipaka cetasika. And vipaka cetasika condition vipaka citta by way of arising together sahachata pattaya and being by the same karma. That's all. It seems not difficult at all to understand it because they depend on each other.
Achan, you say it seems not difficult, and that's because we think that just understanding the words is understanding, but really it's just thinking. And not only that, sometimes it is there is a level of understanding. Most of the time, it is just thinking without understanding.
Can citta condition, can vipaka citta condition akusala cetasika to arise with it?
No.
When you ask like this, the answer will only be in terms of what we remember. There's no real understanding at that time. It's just a theory. It's not even intellectual understanding, Ajahn.
But vipaka citta, condition cetasika, and what type of cetasika? When it is vipaka citta, it can condition only vipaka cetasika to arise.
Yes, that's what we heard, and that's what we're supposed to understand. But what is the understanding that I'm not sure.
To understand that can citta condition, can kusala citta condition vipaka cetasika, and can vipaka citta condition kusala cetasika to arise together.
What I understand is that the chitta and the accompanying chetasikas have to be the same jati. It cannot be a different jati, and that is all that I understand.
By what condition?
Mutual condition, but you also mentioned that since in the case of vipaka chitta, it's being that it's conditioned by karma, so the same karma conditioned the chitta and the cetasika. So there seems to be more than that at that moment.
Because by such condition, it cannot be changed. For example, like sampayutta paccaya and sahachata paccaya. See, almost the same, but not the same at all. Because sahachata means only they arise together. But sampayutta paccaya, even they arise at the same time, but they are different. Like citta, condition rupa to arise, but not by way of sahachata paccaya, because when citta arises at the moment of its arising, it conditions citta to rupa, but not by way of sampayutta paccaya, even they arise at once together.
So, Ajahn, what you're saying is that what you said before about karma conditioning both chitta and cetasika, the same karma conditioning. So it is the same thing as sampayut pachaya, right?
They are different by way of paccaya, because by way of sampayutta paccaya, it has to be citta and cetasika arising together, because they are nama, they cannot be separated. But by way of vipaka, see, we talk more about different kinds of citta and cetasika. Karma produce vipaka for sure. At the moment when it arises, citta has to arise with cetasika. But what kind? It has to be vipaka cetasika. So vipaka citta, condition only vipaka cetasika. And vipaka cetasika, condition only that particular vipaka citta. That's all. To know about conditions, it has to be like conditionality. No one can change it. It has to be such like that. The Dhamma, see, no one can do anything, because actually they are only conditioned realities. No one there.
I can only say, Tanajan, look, I appreciate you talking about these areas. It's not all that clear to me, but I will listen to this again. And you've mentioned here how very close Sampayutta Paccaya is to Sahajata Paccaya. I like, for example, if I can ask this question, Tanajan, by way of, like, at the moment of experiencing visual object, which is a vipaka citta, there must be that must be to do with the cetasikas arising together, the 7 cetasikas arising together at that particular moment, must be by way of sahajata paccaya. But now you've talked about sampayutta paccaya. Can we say where at that particular moment, where would sampayutta paccaya be? I'm not. That's still not entirely clear to me.
Because the meaning of Sahajata paccaya is only arising together, no matter what. Just arise together. But at that very moment, When acitta arises, it can condition rupa at moment of arising of citta, right?
Cup.
But it cannot be sampayutta paccaya because citta cannot be the rupa, but because it has to experience, and the rupa cannot arise together with citta like sampayutta, the same kind, same reality which experiences. So even they arise together, but by different paccaya. At moment of arising together, it is sahachata paccaya for sure. It never change. But the characteristic of that which arises are different. That's why sampayutta is the citta and cetasika together, cannot be separated. It's like it's in the citta. Even cetasika is not citta. But since they are that which experience, so what is when it's experienced together by way of sahajata and also nama together, arising together, they are there. Almost one together, never be separated at all. But the rupa is different. So the rupa can never be sampayutta paccaya. But Cetasika can be sampayutta paccaya and sahachata paccaya. But the rupa can be only sahachata paccaya at moment when citta condition is arise, it to arise, but it cannot be sampayutta because sampayutta means only nama and nama condition one another.
Okay, Tanajan, that seems sort of clear, and what I will do is I will re-listen again. But can you give some examples of sampayutta paccaya? What the types of chittas that can arise with sampayutta paccaya?
Any moment of arising of citta, it has to be sampayutta to the cetasika which arises with it, the same, almost in it, together, never be separated at all, by way of characteristic or by way of experience, the same object arising together, fall away together. So sampayutta is nama to nama, citta and cetasika only. But when citta condition rupa, even they arise together at the same moment. When citta arises, the rupa arises together. But one can see that rupa is conditioned by citta. By citta, see, because of such citta condition, such rupa. But rupa can never experience rupa like citta and cetasika at all. That's why even they arise together, they cannot be sampayutta paccaya. They can be just only sahachata paccaya, while cetasika and citta be sahachata paccaya and also sampayutta paccaya.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Tanajan. It's a little bit clearer. However, I still will re-listen to it, and I find these discussions very helpful. Ultimately, of course, to appreciate the nature of conditionality, which can condition more detachment from clinging to the present reality, which seems so prevalent and so easy to do. But we know that a better understanding can lead on to a deeper understanding and a deeper appreciation of Dhamma, which conditions more letting go.
Chan, can you explain what you just said by way of the Mahabhuta Rupas are not Sampayutta Paccaya for each other?
Because sampayutta means only nama can have sampayutta. Because the way the citta and cetasika arising together, I cannot use any word. In Thai, I can try, but in English, I don't know. But I can have you think about it and feel the truth that nama is nama. It has no shape and form. Even such a little of tiny rupa is not there when it is nama. Nama arises without any rupa, and it experiences an object by different ways, by different characteristics. For example, citta is a chief of experience only the characteristic of the object clearly, not no understanding, but it just experience clearly the characteristic of the object. While cetasika arises together in the sense of nama together, see, like the oil and the water, but while the other is not just like the oil, and so it cannot just mix with the water like the oil and the water. See, this is just trying to think about it in the way that it can understand the different characteristics of nama and rupa. When they arise together, it's much more together than the other object which cannot experience. That's why that is another condition by way of sampayutta, arising together and also experience the object, one object only together and fall away together and arises at the base of it in the five khandas plane. It has to be six vatu, heart base and the other base, eye base, ear base, and so on. See? So we can understand the difference between what is meant by nama and that which is rupa. Even it's so very, very tiny or very, very short, that no matter how tiny it is, how short it is different by way of sampayutta pacchaya, by way of and pacchaya, which can arise together only. Together means sampayutta and at the same moment together, sahachata, while the other can arise together in a moment, sahachata, but cannot be just like citta and cetasika.
Zita, Sundara, you may, I mean, I haven't, usually I don't, think about conditions that much, these different conditions. But I just remember from what Achan is explaining, the word sampatyutta pachaya in English is mutuality condition. I think that's correct, right?
No, it's not. It's usually like in Abhidhamma, it means connected with. Sampayutta, yutta means to be connected with. Mutuality is anyamanya pachya, which is a different condition. I know if there, yeah. So it's easy to get confused with these different words. So when Ajahn talks about sampayutta, she means connected with, not with mutuality, which is called anyamanya pachya, which is another pachya. So yeah, but I think it's always very useful to consider carefully these different dhammas, because it leads to a deeper appreciation of the Dhamma. And it's good to be introduced to different facets of the Dhamma, because that can lead, when there is the correct pariyatti, as we've spoken about, to a deeper appreciation of the present reality as it appears.
Can I read out from the little Buddhist dictionary? And it says, association condition, and it's sampayutta pachaya, refers to the connascent and mutuality condition for mental groups, the khandas, the four nama khandas, as they aid each other by their being associated, by having a common physical base, a common object, and by their arising and disappearing simultaneously. So I don't know if that helps at all, Sukin.
Well, I think as Tanajan would say, we'd have to read that, word by word, but we can see that there is an interrelationship between all those different conditions, whether it's anyamanya pachya, whether it's sampayutta pachya, whether it's sahajata pachya, that they all have different connections with each other. just a moment.
I
Oh,
think
yeah.
that the important thing, or I think that the important issue was that it conditioned for Nama Khandas, so Rupa Khanda doesn't come into it.
I see.
No,
I'm not.
what I understand, Achan, to be saying that the difference between is actually pointing out the difference between Nama and Rupa. And only namas can be mutual. There's sampayutta pachaya, but rupas cannot be. So that is an aspect of nama which is being shown.
And it can condition the understanding of the difference between the characteristic of Nama and Rupa. That even they arise together, they cannot be the same or can be conditioned like Citta and Cetasika, which are Nama together. Little by little, there can be the understanding, but it doesn't mean that trying so hard to know it, but to understand it, and there are so many different conditions because
Yeah.
realities are different.
I mean, I appreciate Tanajan when you say this trying to understand. I suppose, like for myself, when I try to understand, because I think it's valuable for there to. I think it's valuable. I know in the trying there is usually a lot of attachment, or there will be a lot of attachment. But because I respect the Dhamma so much, I feel that the more it is understood, it can condition more understanding by conditions. So there is always that kind of, I suppose I'd use the word chanda to understand what appears by way of correct pariyatti. So I do appreciate the reminder that you just mentioned then, that the trying is usually a kusala, but sometimes we can also appreciate that with better understanding, there can be more conditions for panya to arise. Would we say that's correct?
And even the trying, Panya can know at the end what it said.
Yeah, true. Cup. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, and that trying often arises when we're trying to figure out so hard what we're hearing and what it means, intellectually working it out. That trying is there.
Yeah,
And
certainly.
can that
Certainly.
moment be known by Panya?
Yeah.
See, all come to Panya to be able to understand the truth of whatever is there. Even trying is there. What is it?
And I also think, Kunsukin, that it can be a condition for, compassion in a way, because many people who, when they first listen to Tanajan, must have some of these same types of feelings or issues come up for them. And it can be helpful for us to reflect that, we can appreciate a certain level of understanding, but there is still much more that can be appreciated about the Dhamma, which we know can condition more understanding, which can potentially condition more understanding. So that, when we hear these things and we try to, or we struggle to try to understand, get a better intellectual grasp of them, we can know that other people have difficulty with much more what we would consider much more simple things, but we're all at different levels of understanding, so that we can help each other in a sense to have better understanding. And this is, I think, what these Dhamma discussions enable us to to grow and have a better appreciation of the Dhamma.
Sundara, I like to think that we're all in the same boat.
Well, yes, certainly. Perhaps you could flesh that out, Kunz, again, what you mean by on the same boat. But I suppose because we all have...
We're all struggling. We're all struggling. It's not just...
Yes, that's true. Jing Cup.
So does anyone else have any more questions? We haven't got much time, so Maeve, I see you there. Have you got anything?
Just something very little, really, and very ordinary, given the discussion that has gone on. But prior to the discussion this morning, when I was making the bed, I found myself thinking how much I liked the blue sheets. And it was the color blue. And then I found myself thinking, well, if there was the level of understanding that realized this was not self, that this experience of color and, you know, the whole experience of seeing invisible object, etc., and the thinking of color, that in fact that there wouldn't be any pleasure there. There wouldn't be any enjoyment, or just that little simple moment of, you know, how lovely the colour blue is. And I realised that that kind of thinking is quite hard to put aside. In fact, you know, we can't put it aside, but what an obstacle it is to the whole idea of letting go the idea of self. Because it's like, well, you know, there are all these little things in life that just seem so simple and harmless, and then there is that huge idea of seeing reality in terms totally in terms of no self. And I realized how well, as Sundara was talking earlier about having things the wrong way around, this is probably a good example of having things the wrong way around, but the getting to them not being the wrong way around seems to involve a lot of the addressing of, you know, how much attachment there is.
And I think also that addressing, you know, how much attachment we have, that's all part of it, isn't it? That's a part of, like, if we hadn't heard the Dhamma, if you knew nothing about this, you would just take it all. You'd probably want to go out and buy some more blue sheets. But but because you know, there's knowing, look, this is an attachment. That's all part of the development, I would think. I think, as Sukin just said, you know, we're all in this together kind of thing. And so these discussions so help each other. And you know, yeah.
Sorry, no, you keep going.
Go on, Sundara.
Oh, well, I was just thinking what Tamajan said a moment ago, is that that attachment, Maeve, can be an object of understanding also, you know, and because we've accumulated so much attachment by way of, and we've spoken about this one before, so it's always helpful to talk about it again, by way of Pakatupa Nisya Pachya, there will be more and more attachment. It's one of the conditions that will condition more attachment, and that's just the nature of reality. But there can be understanding, you know, briefly, perhaps in a very tiny, tender way of the reality that appears, even though amongst all that attachment. And that's how understanding grows, and we can get more confident, we can have more confidence in the Dhamma by realizing that. This is why these conversations are so valuable, because yes, you're absolutely right. We're all attracted, by way of our different accumulations to different objects, as John has pointed out to us. We'll all have different accumulations. Some people, like in your case, you like the blue. Some people have other, tendencies, so they're attracted to different colors or different flavors or whatever. But whatever individuals' accumulations are, they're accumulated sankharas, and sankharas just means different ingredients, essentially. Whatever different ingredients that we have accumulated, they can be, objects of wisdom, however tender and however fragile they are, and that can lead on to a deeper and a better understanding of Dhamma.
And I think the big one, the underlying one, is ignorance about it all. No knowing whatsoever about any of it. And unfortunately, I think we've hit time. So we should let Achan go. Achan, Kopkumaka.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคนค่ะ
Bye.
ขอบคุณครับ
Bye.
สวัสดีครับอาจารย์ครับ